Oh, Christmas tree, oh, Christmas tree, how lovely are your branches. Da, 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 only in the summertime. Da, 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 da. Oh, Christmas tree, oh, Christmas tree, how lovely are thy branches.
We ended pretty well. Hello, dear listeners. Welcome to People We Know, a podcast for my friends and family about my friends and family. Today I'm here with my grandma, Grandma Liz. I asked her how I should introduce her, and she said the grand old lady of GP2. GP2, if you don't know, stands for Geezer Palace 2, which is what our family calls the place she lives. She was at Geezer Palace 1, and now it's 2. She's also a beautiful, intelligent, very funny lady, very musical also, who was raised mostly in Osage City, Kansas, but moved around a bunch, and taught me how to say my fingers in Swedish. So, today we're talking about our family tree and Swedish traditions and kind of what it means to pass things down over time, and yeah, so enjoy. Hello, Grandma.
Hello, my dear Sally.
What is your favorite book?
I think I'd like To Kill a Mockingbird.
Oh, that's Toby's favorite book.
Is it?
Oh, yeah.
Uh-huh.
I think I read it when I was too young to really get it.
Oh, really? I just like the whole essence of that. Subsequently, I've seen movies, and so I suppose that colors your feeling about the book, too.
Oh, you didn't like the movies?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you liked
them? Yeah, but they enhance the reading of the book, I think.
Okay, I get it now. I see. So your grandma, Irene, is her name? No, Elizabeth. Your mom is Irene.
Mm-hmm.
She is from Sweden.
She was.
And she came here.
Right. She was born in Sweden, adopted in Sweden, and her mother died.
Oh, okay.
And so she came with her father to America, and they did not go through Ellis Island. They went, there was another dropping off place up further north, and I can't tell you that without looking.
Okay. So it's you, your mom is Irene.
Uh-huh. My grandma was Elizabeth.
And that's who you're named after?
Uh-huh.
And Elizabeth was adopted.
Elizabeth Alexandria.
Oh.
It's kind of an unusual name.
Alexandria. And she
came as a little child with her dad.
Okay.
And they came on a steerage.
A steerage? Ship, what is that?
Where it's the bottom level.
Oh.
It's not a high class place.
Uh-huh.
But they came and they got off somewhere in a port north of New York. I don't know just where or what, but I can find it out for you.
Okay.
But they were met by Swedes. I don't know. There was a whole group of Swedish people that were getting off the plane or the ship. And the reason they came was they were very religious people, and they did not like the fact that they had to follow the state church of Sweden, which was Lutheran.
Oh.
And so they had their own group called the Covenant.
Okay.
And they came over, and there was a whole group that settled around Osage City, Kansas.
And that's where you're from.
Mm-hmm. And they came there and worked there were some they had mines there that they worked in. They weren't like like you think of a big mine shaft and everything. I think that was more like open field mining,
okay,
different kind of mining. But anyway, they came, and so that's how they started. And so after a time, then Grammy was Grandpa, her dad.
So Elizabeth's dad
PG
was her dad?
PG Anderson. He married another lady who was a widow. And so Grandma grew up with two brothers that were her children.
Okay, so he had her and then married someone else that had kids already. Okay. And this was in Sweden, or was this in the U.S.?
In the U.S.
Okay.
I mean, he had her in Sweden, but he didn't.
Or he adopted her in Sweden.
Yeah.
Okay. And then they came over, and then he married
Mrs. And I don't know what her name was.
Okay.
But I probably Anderson, because there were a lot of Andersons.
Yeah, that's a lot of Swedish names are like something's son, aren't they? Like.
So anyway, then, so she was raised in that family. And my grandfather was raised in the Olaf and Sarah family.
What is her? So Elizabeth's husband was the one who you're talking about?
Yeah.
Who is
Elizabeth's husband was Victor.
And he was
part of Oscar. His parents were Oscar and Sarah.
Okay. And was he also Swedish?
Oh, yeah. And they all met out in this little community north of Osage City, northwest. And it was called Miller.
Miller?
And they lived in a little house that had no water, no running water, and no electricity at that time. And, of course, no TV, no washing machine, all those kind of things. And my mother told the story of feeling so sad that she accidentally knocked one of the mantles of the lantern. And in a lantern, those mantles, after they've been burned once, they're very vulnerable and they just fall apart if they're hit or anything. She did something that caused the mantle to disintegrate. And she cried because she loved to read. And she couldn't read then at night.
Wow.
So anyway, she went to school, rode her pony to school. Yeah, that's my mother. And your
Irene rode her pony to school?
My mother, Grandma, she, then they finally moved to Osage City after a time.
So where were they? They were in Miller?
And just a little community, not a town or anything.
Okay.
But they did have a school. And so she went to school in Miller. And then when the time came for them to go to school beyond that, they moved to Osage City. And they lived in a little house behind the Lutheran church.
Oh, really? Even though they had been trying to get away from the Lutherans, right?
Well, and after you get to Kansas, it was no longer seemed to be as important as it was to get away from it in Sweden. And I'm sure it was more like a state church would be different than just a common Lutheran church.
And I guess at this point we're kind of 2 generations down, so maybe they didn't care so much at that point.
And when they lived in the country in Miller, the way they, I guess, kept their sanity is they were very much into church. My mom recalls having gone to church, and until 1935, they did their services in Swedish.
Oh, really? And so did your mom speak Swedish and read it? Oh, wow. Did you learn any?
No.
Oh.
But the thing about my mother is she knew Swedish well enough that when she finally went to work at the bank in Osage City, a lot of the Swedes would bring in mail from Sweden for her to interpret because they didn't know it as well anymore, you know. So she was quite literate in Swedish and English.
I guess these ones are connected, right? That's her dad is
Yeah.
Victor. Okay. So, but you know, because I know a little bit of Swedish that you taught me. You taught me how to say my fingers.
Oh, yeah.
And I tell people that, and they don't think it's real.
They don't.
No, because it sounds so funny. So can you tell us the
Sure.
fingers in Swedish, starting from the thumb to the pinky?
Okay. The thumb is tummatut. And then the next finger, this is how my mom taught me. And the next finger is your slicking finger, slickaput. Because that's the one you do this.
You lick and then you turn a page. Okay.
And the third finger is longamon.
Your middle finger?
Long one, the longest one, you know.
Long man?
Yeah.
Or is it just
longamon.
and your ring?
Okay, one longamon. Yersahan.
Your
And that's connected to your heart. Yers. Heart.
I thought the pinky was the one because I thought
No, the pinky is little tummatut.
I thought it was little Vicky Vinya.
Oh, yeah.
That's what you told me.
Yeah,
and I
it
thought it
is.
was like little heart vein.
Yeah, that's right.
So then or maybe both of them go to the heart. I don't know.
No, this one, Yersahan, with the Yersa heart. Can you see that? And then little Vicky Van, little weak one.
A little weak one. Oh, okay. See, I was wrong about that. Okay, I see. And that's real. Okay, you heard
And
it here,
the
folks.
interpretation might be slightly different from a true Swede. You know, if you went to Sweden, they may not say them the same way. But anyway, so after they moved to school, mom went to high school, and she was a straight A student. Always got 100. She was very dedicated and liked athletics and played women's basketball, but
They had women's basketball?
yeah.
Oh.
But that's a whole different kind of basketball.
All right.
It's half court. I don't know the
Still
rules.
doing the peach baskets?
No, I don't think they were that far behind. But anyway, she was very athletic, and she really would have liked to have gone to college. But of course, there was no money at that time, and I don't think scholarships were as readily available either. So it was cheaper to go, but it was not cheaper if you didn't have the money.
Yeah. Did
So
you go to college? You went to college.
oh yeah, I graduated.
Bethany?
No, I went to College of Emporia.
Where is that?
Emporia.
Oh.
It's a Presbyterian college. And the truth is, I went there because a man in our community who remained anonymous till much later thought I had possibility, as I knew we didn't have a lot of money. And he provided a scholarship for me to go to school at College of Emporia because he'd gone there before. So, and I really liked it there. It was a small college, but it was in a kind of a medium-sized town for Kansas. And it was just a good place for me because I hadn't really been around much. You know, like the grandkids, they've been to Europe and all around, and so I had none. About the furthest I'd ever been was Topeka.
So, do you know why Kansas? Like, why are all these? Because I know there's like Lynchburg, Kansas too. There's like a bunch of Swedish communities there.
It's just that's people that came there. Most of them were agricultural people, you know, farmers and so forth. And I think that's why they came, because there's a lot of farmland there. You could maybe make a living or have a substance. You could have enough to get by just from your farm products. And then they were all eager. Now, College of Emporia wasn't Swedish, it was more Welsh. but the Presbyterian college. But Lindsberg had a big section of Lutherans, and so they had a lot of Swedish people there.
Do you consider yourself Presbyterian?
Yes. Well, Lutherans have what they call liturgy, which they do a lot of. Somebody says something and somebody says back, and it's like readings almost. And in Presbyterians are a little more liberal than some.
So that's why you kind of. I see. Can you do your Swedish accent for the listeners?
So you want
give us one of your good stories.
my good stories. Okay. Well, it seems that Odie and Lena, they finally got married. They had been going to the same church out in the country for years. And finally they got married. And they had the big smorgasbord, and they had all their kind of specialties, rice pudding and all the good stuff that they made at the for church weddings. And they went and got in their car, and they were going to go into Minneapolis for their honeymoon. And they had rental. He had gone all out and got a reservation at the Motel 6.
Wow.
That's where they keep the light on,
The light on.
Anyway, they were driving along, and Ole put his hand on her knee.
Wow. Scandal.
And she said to him, Ole, you can go a little further. And they drove clear up to Duluth.
I love that one.
And if you looked at the map, you'd know you go here, and then out of Minneapolis, you go straight up. Duluth is right in the north corner. Right after Betsy's Pies.
Where did you hear that? Or did you make that up?
No, I didn't make it up. I heard it from somebody. I don't know who.
I love those. They're so funny.
They are pretty good, aren't they?
Pretty good. How do you do your Swedish accent? You just kind of dump around a little bit. Say well instead of well.
I think you'd catch on right away.
Right away, okay. Man. Well, since it's Christmas time, could you talk a little bit about Santa Lucia?
Oh, yeah. That is not exactly Christmas. It's kind of in the month of December, I believe. Okay. But it's where the oldest girl is chosen out of the family, and they present cakes and treats. I would say coffee. I don't know exactly what the menu was, and take it to the family for their Santa Lucia Day.
And they wear.
They usually wear a ring of candles on their head, and usually they're lighted.
Oh.
Now, of course, they've gotten so they can use the little battery lights. But
and a white gown and red sash.
Right? Yeah, and it's a big deal. I would say it's comparable to when the Catholics have their young people coming out or whatever it is. So, every church kind of does something that marks going into adult or moving on.
Did you ever do it?
I did not. We didn't do that. It kind of depends on who you have and whether they have children they want to participate.
Was it a Lutheran thing or just a cultural thing?
It's a cultural thing.
Did your mom do it?
I have no idea. But I do know if you went to Sweden, you would find it surely, and probably in Norway. Some of these things go between the Scandinavian countries. They're similar. Well, I saw something the other night that I thought, it made me think, well, this isn't just Swedish, but they have different traditions, but they have the same ones too.
Mm-hmm.
Some of their Christmas, like the little grouch or what do they call it?
The Grinch?
No, not the Grinch.
Grouch.
But,
A beard.
well, I can't.
Or is it like a gnome?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. What did you call that? You called them something different. Gnomes. You had a Swedish name for them.
It's lost on my memory right at the moment.
Oh, man. We'll edit in what it is later.
Okay.
Hello, it's later, and the name is Tomtas.
But anyway, that they had those little creatures of the forest, that kind of thing. But a lot of places have that. I mean, it came from the Scandinavian. A lot of things transferred between because they were all close, close in proximity.
So today we made spreets.
And that's kind of it's a Scandinavian thing too. You would find that. Butter cookies in shapes is about what it is.
Are they Christmas thing, or are they?
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh, okay.
But I can't say they wouldn't have them all the time because they like them, they're good.
I think it's interesting how much of Swedish culture has been passed down in our family, because by my generation and younger, we're so mixed up with other bloodlines now that I'm barely even Swedish, I would say. We looked it up earlier. My mom on Ancestry.com, she's 42% Swedish, so that makes me maybe 20-ish%.
What'd you look up?
My mom's Ancestry.com.
Oh, she's on Ancestry.
And she's 42% Swedish. So you're probably 80%, maybe.
I think I'm half.
You think you're half?
And then my dad was German. I think that other half takes up. He had no Swedish, so I can't be more than 50%.
But even though, me and all my cousins, we're not really technically that Swedish, we still have a lot of the culture is passed down. How do you think that happened?
Well, because it was such an influence early on, and the parents got it, and there were a lot of things they liked about it, and the decorations and everything were something they liked about. And of course, like my mother, she was steeped in the Swedish because she still talks Swedish. So I guess that's why it's just that we were so grounded in it. And I think they used their own, even though they wanted to get away from Sweden and the state church, they also liked the customs. They brought a lot of their customs with them, and their food, rye bread and lingonberries and all that kind of stuff was.
Did you ever make Swedish pancakes?
Oh, yeah. Well, anyway, and a lot of foods come more, I would say they're more Scandinavian than just Swedish. But
I see.
Yeah, but those cookies are definitely something we had at Christmas, always.
It seems like the food and the art, because we have doll horses and the colors and the patterns kind of all over our house too.
The red, yellows, blue, bright colors.
Yeah, big, just
And I would say maybe they had the bright colors because they lived far north, and I'm sure they had a lot of days that were dark.
Oh, dark, yeah.
And they used the red and yellow and blue for that. I would have liked to have gone to Sweden sometime. Maybe you'll get to go.
You haven't been? I thought you had been. Oh, no.
I never have.
So do we have any idea of where in Sweden your grandma's from?
Karlskrona.
Karlskrona?
Karlskona.
And is that a city or a...
That is a city.
Okay.
I think a city or a county.
Like a region? I guess.
And if we were to find her, we would have to access the church records
Right.
because every birth was noted.
Right.
But you'd have to know a little more about where she lived.
Then just.
But I'm working on that.
And then you're also going through like some of our Mormon family, right? To get that maybe. Can you explain that?
Polly is a Mormon. My son's first wife, Ben's first wife.
So your son, I'm just gonna write down for people. So your son Ben's kid,
Cody,
is
and he
married
to Polly,
and they are Mormon.
Well, not Ben necessarily.
Yeah, but Cody and Polly.
And Polly has a sister, Gladys, and she works with another lady who I can't give you a name for. And they had spent a lot of time volunteering at the genealogy centers for the Mormon Church. And so that's my next source. I'm going to get stuff all together and have them pursue it a little further because we'd really like to know where Grammy's.
So how would the Mormons have like records of random Lutheran?
They just work on it all the time.
Right, because for the Mormons it's like part of going to heaven for them, right?
Right. You get baptized and then you get to be, I think, next to your relatives or something.
In heaven.
Yeah.
Or
I can't tell you, that's for sure.
So but they would have the records of like a random tiny Lutheran church in Sweden from 18...
That's what we were told, that they that's what Tim Johnson told me, that they found that all of the little Lutheran churches have the records.
I see. So, and since we have our little, our in with Cody, our ticket into the Mormon church, we can maybe get that.
Yeah.
Those records.
Well, I'm hoping, I've got to get it done to her before. So I'm trying to get enough together so they have something to go on.
What sort of things do you need to get that?
Well, we need to pinpoint where she was born, if we can. Because when you say Karlskrona, that's a big place. It may be even more like a county. I don't know. And so we're going to have to, they'll have to look in small churches. And actually, it's interesting because the Lutherans keep all the records in their communities of births and deaths. Now, whether they're going to have written down anywhere out of wedlock, I don't know.
Oh, you think she was born?
I think so.
You think that's why she was adopted?
Yeah, probably.
I see. Okay. But we know that she is Swedish, at least from ancestry.
Yeah.
From like our blood or whatever.
I'm sure, because she never went anywhere.
Yeah.
And I mean, I doubt if her mother had ever been anywhere.
Yeah.
It was Oli across the field.
So what sort of are you looking for with her records? Do you want to know like medical history or where?
I would just like to know, even if we had a name or a date or when she was actually. We have a date that she was born, but.
Do you know the date?
No, not with me.
Oh, but probably 1880 something. Okay. Well, maybe we'll find that.
Yeah. Well, let's see. Mom would have been before the end of the century. She graduated from high school in
1921.
So she would have been close. Must have been born in the early 1900s. Mom. And then Grandma, I can find out how old she was at that time, but I don't have it on the tip of my tongue.
Mm-hmm. I see. Who was the family you were telling me about the other day where the woman was kind of a well-to-do family and then the man was a poor or carpenter?
Oh, that would have been my Uncle Andy.
So Irene's brother?
No,
Oh,
her cousin.
her cousin.
Well, let me see. Let me do this again. Olaf and Helga, I think her name was. They were married. And they were married, I think, here in this country.
Okay.
That would have been my greats, I think. But anyway, they had a lot of children.
Victor and Oscar are brothers.
Brothers.
Okay, so this is wrong then. So Oscar and Sarah are here instead. Olaf and Helga had Victor and Oscar.
Victor and Oscar.
And the, all 800 of the other ones.
Yeah. Oscar, Victor, Hannah, Esther.
And so you come from the
Victor
line.
Mm-hmm. And Andrew, they had Andrew too.
Olaf and Helga did?
Mm-hmm.
And this is your Uncle Andy that you liked.
Mm-hmm.
And they're Andersons.
Uh-huh. They're all Andersons. Mom was an Anderson.
Right, because she married.
Mm-hmm.
In.
Okay, so then the one I liked was Andy, who was a brother, one of the sons of the family. Mm-hmm. And he was a poor carpenter. People didn't make a lot of money if you didn't have an education or anything. They just worked hard. Mm-hmm. Most of them tried to have a little land. They could raise a cow or two or keep their ponies. But anyway, Andrew went to Lindsborg to work on a construction. He was a carpenter.
Lindsborg, Kansas.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Lindsborg. And he met Aunt Florence there, and she was a college graduate. The first female graduate from Bethany College. Okay. Where your mom went. Mm-hmm. All right. And when she did that, her family, they
disowned
her.
For marrying him or for going to college?
No, because they wanted her to be a concert pianist. And she married an old Swedish carpenter and proceeded to have 7 children.
Oh my God. Was she Swedish?
I imagine. Mm-hmm. She was a Swanson, I think. So that was probably. Mm-hmm. And so they moved eventually to Osage City. And that's how because I was a young child and Mom used Uncle Andy, people worked together. And Uncle Andy and Aunt Florence were always, if they were home, they babysat me.
Mm. So you called him Uncle Andy, but he was really in your grandparents' generation.
Yes.
Okay, I see.
But anyway, from Uncle Andy, then you have all the cousins like Wally and Adeline and that bunch.
Okay, I see.
And so, anyway, that's that story. That she threw away her education to play in the Swedish church, the piano. But anyway, that's how we're all connected. And because there were large families and because we lived close together at the time, that's why we were so connected, I think. Because we all lived in Osage for many years. Because that's where Victor and Florence had all those children. They went to Osage schools. And of course, Mom was in the same town. And she was close to all of them.
I see.
Okay.
So, I guess something I kind of wonder about is back to the, the actual amount of Swedish blood we have in us or whatever. Do you think, I guess, do you consider yourself Swedish? Do you consider me and my generation Swedish? And if we had kids, would they be considered Swedish? And what really makes a person Swedish if it's not the blood?
Well, probably our traditions. Traditions enter in. And, it's only been of recent times that we even knew a lot about ancestry and genealogy. So, and I'm really not, I'm half Swede because my mother was 100% Swede. That's it. Mom was 100% Swede because Grammy was Swedish and her dad, Victor, was Swedish.
So, like, she's 100, you're half.
And that's where it starts because I have other, and then I think because my dad had no Swedish. So I would be no more than 50%, but I can be 50%. I am 50%. Yeah.
Yeah. But you don't know too much about your dad's side.
Oh, there's been a lot of research done on it, and I'd have to tell you that another day, I think. I didn't really know them well. I only know the story of Grandpa Hamler, and I have a picture of me and Grandpa Hamler. But he was carrying me and I was a baby. So, I didn't know my grandparents on the other side other than Grandpa Hamler.
So I guess maybe that's why
you
think.
Because, and he was a lot older than Mother. So, it didn't come through like maybe.
Mom's half.
Yeah. And because he was from a German community in Hamler, Swedish, not Swedish, but in Europe, they called it White Russia, I think. It was kind of like Prussia.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, And anyway, because all that relatives pretty much were over in Europe. And then Grandpa Hamler came here. I don't really know much about beyond that.
You were talking a little bit the other day about like migrants to the U.S. and how we treat them. Yeah.
Essentially, we were not citizens when we came. We were migrants. And we came to the border, and that's, I think, why we aren't on the Ellis Islands. There was another place where more off-going for Swedish people. And you know who another person you can talk to about this sometime is Tim Johnson. He lives in...
and how is he related to us?
Well, my sister Naomi, and my sister Barb, and he is Naomi's child.
Okay.
And he's mom's, she's half Swedish too, and then her Gordy Johnson, his dad, is full Swede. They're just Swedish to the...
But you were saying something about how, like, current immigrants in our country and how kind of poorly they're treated when literally we're just immigrants that got here a little sooner.
Right. That's true.
Yeah. And
I don't know that we had papers or whatever. And, nobody... Now, the Irish, I think, and maybe the Italians, there were segments of migrant people, people who came from Europe to this country that were not well treated. But the Swedes weren't, because I think they all mostly settled in the upper Midwest, mid-Kansas, and Indiana, Iowa, Illinois. And they kind of clung together, and so I don't think they encountered a lot of. I don't remember hearing about anybody.
I see.
You see, so that's why it irritates me when, it's like putting a classification. If you came early and you stayed with your group, you're in okay. But if you're coming now to get away from stuff in your own country, or, for a better life.
Yeah.
And they're saying now that, like, the agriculture community, they're really worried because those workers really help them keep their crops going. But anyway, that's my sentiment. Every now and then I get really offended to think, well, nobody ever treated us that bad. Now, I think I've heard somebody said the poor dumb Swedes, but in my town where I grew up, I think Mom told me there were many, many different groups. A lot of Italians, the Gambas and so forth, and a lot of Welsh, a little bit outside of Osage City, then the Swedes. And even though they weren't covenant like we were, they were Lutheran, and over here that didn't seem to matter so much.
People would just all fight. Yeah.
But they were mostly Swedes.
I see.
And I don't remember. I don't know what any other groups were, but I know there were Italians because they had the meat market, and they were, the Gamba brothers, and a lot of people went into business together with family. So
yeah, I think it's funny because basically most people in America are immigrants.
If you came and went to Ellis Island, that didn't mean you were home free, because I don't know that they had their citizenship when they came.
How did we get citizenship then?
Well, we were here.
Just here long enough? I see.
And, because we were born of people who are citizens.
Oh, okay.
And I don't know all the details of that from the early times.
I see.
But I know that we weren't necessarily citizens when we came across the border and settled.
So what else do you think, besides, our blood and our food and our art, what else do you think was passed down in our family? We have very musical family.
Right. But not all Swedish families are musical.
I think that's specific to our family. Maybe.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. It seems kind of like a...
Now, my dad used to sing in operas, in amateur, communities. He had a very good voice. And my sister Edith sang well. So they were all German. So, but I don't...
that's where we get the...
But we just had the tradition, and I think because we were very strongly connected with the church, that's where that all came from, too.
I think also our family is very... we kind of have almost a, British sense of humor sometimes, where we're very mean. Where do you think that comes from?
When we're very what?
Well, we're a lot of sarcasm in our family, a lot of banter, a lot of making fun of each other. And it's very funny. Do you think that comes from my grandpa's side, or just being poor people in Kansas, or...
I really can't tell you. Because, my sister Naomi was very serious about things. She was a registered nurse. I don't know the answer to that. Because I can be out there, but I try not to do any humor that would be hurtful.
Well, yeah. I think, you're pretty sweet I think it's more the younger we get, like my uncles and my mom.
Well, Timothy. And part of that comes from your other grandpa.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So maybe that's where that comes from. I was just wondering if it was a cultural thing or not, I guess.
Well, we all have a good time when we get together. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I have one last question.
Okay.
And I prepped you for this earlier. I don't know if you remember. But if you had to split your life into the before and the after, what is the thing that changes it from the before to the after? So if you have, like, basically if your life was, like, in 2 acts, like a play, what is the end of Act 2, or Act 1, I guess?
Well, divorce.
Mm-hmm.
Actually changed my life a lot, you know, because I was kind of surprised about that. I wasn't thinking that he would have someone else besides me when I was so nice.
You are so nice. I don't know why.
But anyway, that was hard for me. But if you want to have, like, not that kind of a personal thing, but going to college probably gave me a way to get a career and stuff.
You can tell us the personal one if you want. If that's the real defining one.
Yeah, because after that, I moved down here and my life's all different than it was. Mm-hmm. I don't regret the life I had before because we had a lot of good experiences. Mm-hmm. And I always had a lot of friends everywhere we went.
Yeah. Now you're like the it girl at the Geezer Palace, which is, for the listeners, what we call where Grandma lives. That's what I'm telling you. That's like our family's, like, mean sense of humor. The, like, calling it the Geezer Palace.
Yeah, I know. Now, the one thing did you want to have me tell you all my teachers?
Oh, yeah. Earlier, Grandma said that she could name every teacher she's ever had, so please go ahead.
Okay.
Kindergarten. Or no, preschool.
We didn't have kindergarten. We jumped straight into first grade.
Okay, first grade.
And I was only 5, so because now it's September and now I was going to be 5 in November when I started.
Okay.
So I had Mrs. Asklund.
Asklund?
Asklund. Asklund.
Okay.
And she was a lovely lady. And I did not read when I started school. I guess nobody had worked with me on it because within 2 weeks I had learned to read.
Oh, wow.
I just picked it up and I was ready for it.
Okay.
And the one thing I remember there is we used to get the weekly readers, a little newspaper, and they would have a little quiz in them. And Mrs. Asklund let me grade those.
Wow.
In first grade.
So you were doing pretty well then.
Yeah. She liked me too. And then in second grade, I had Helen Anderson.
Okay. Were you related?
No.
Just
it was another Anderson family. Now her sister Anne was our principal. So okay. So then that was second grade. Third grade was Isla Rose Lindberg. She was
these are all very Swedish names.
Yeah, and she came from Lindsberg, I think, and that was her first job. I don't know.
You have the first and the last names. It's not just a. And that's crazy. Okay, fourth grade.
Okay, fourth grade was. Why am I missing fourth grade? Can I go on to fifth and tell you 4?
Well, you promised that you were going to be able to do them all, but I guess...
I think it was Jean Rita Kaiser. That's who I think it is.
Suddenly we've got a German name in there.
Yeah, I know. And then fifth grade was Marie Louise Allen. I did not really like her.
I guess you could be making these up and we wouldn't know.
Well, I could prove it to you. I've got yearbooks to prove it. And then in sixth grade, I loved Clara Christensen. She was a really good teacher. She let my friend Barbara Bowen and I dress up for Christmas and sing Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. And we made reindeer tops out of sacks with evergreen antlers. And then she also let us do da 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 Santa Lucia. Santa Lucia. A friend of mine, and we got to sing a duet because we could read music. And then 7th grade was Mary T. Williams. And I loved her to pieces. She did that and taught English and art and music. Can you imagine being able? And she's the one that always put a poem on the board that we were to memorize.
Do you have any memorized still?
Yes. The daffodils, the song, the one about the daffodils. I see a host of golden daffodils. And then we learned the state song of Kansas. Back to Kansas, good old Kansas, where the great big sunflowers grow. Da 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 dum. Anyway, then later she moved to the high school and was the journalism teacher. And then in 8th grade, I had Ann Anderson. And Ann Anderson was the principal, but she also taught English. And in those days, they had something called the Every Pupil Contest with schools in the county. And that was very important to them that we take the honors of that to bear. So we did well on that. That was something I always competed with and did okay.
So humble.
And then she also taught home ec.
Okay.
And we had sewing in 8th grade.
And you made your green jumper, you said.
Yeah, I did. We did very well in 8th grade. And we had Mr. Kemp, who taught social studies, and Mrs. Bryan, which taught math. So anyway, we had a collection of teachers, and by the time we got to junior high, but there was only one, everybody would have them, and they just divided them up differently. And we were on the 3rd floor mostly of the old Central School, which is now torn down. They've got a newer school, but it was a creaky old building and had a cement basement, and that's where the restrooms were. And there were no restaurants for faculty, and so we were always laughing if we were in there and we heard Mrs. Williams get in there and fart.
Okay.
I mean, can you imagine a poor teacher having
to go fart in
And then we would sit in that basement, and it was a bad day, and have our lunch, and then we'd hightail it outdoors. And we had a huge park without any fence, and a great big slide. I think they've outlawed them. They were those huge high ones.
Oh, really?
And swings that you could swing and go over. But then when we got to 7th grade, Jim Vagola was our custodian, and he took us under his wing, and we had baseball. And I mean to tell you, I loved baseball. I couldn't get out of my lunch fast enough to go play baseball.
You still love baseball.
And he taught us things, about how to do stuff. And he also was not afraid to take a kid and whomp him on the butt. Nobody misbehaved around Jim, and he was, can you imagine now? That'd be a lawsuit, wouldn't it? But anyway, that was how we took our lunch. Usually I had a peanut butter sandwich and maybe some fruit or something. We didn't have all the selection.
I mean, I have a peanut butter sandwich with fruit quite a bit.
Yeah. But we didn't have the selection like, you would buy little things and chips and stuff. No. We were so happy when we finally got a lunchroom. I think about 7th grade we had a lunchroom in another building. We actually, stayed for a long time, and they've torn it down now, but we had an auditorium where we had public meetings like commencement and graduation, plays, and they tore it down. I mean, I guess it lost, but that was where the lunchroom was, in the basement there.
So who was 9th grade teacher? Is that where we are? Forgot.
8th grade, we got to 8th grade. And then in 9th grade, then it was in high school, and you started having more than one teacher. And I had, what was his name? I know it so well, too. I've had letters from him. He liked me.
Oh.
I was kind of a questioner. He liked me for I had this note in my yearbook, creativity and my meaning that I was ethical. That's not the word I'm trying to think of, but honesty and so forth. Or that I was not afraid to stick up. I remember once he got after somebody in the class, and I stuck up for her. She was a friend of mine, and I said, "Do you know that she works at night?" I said, and I probably wasn't appropriate, but I stuck up for my friend. And then we had Emily Hazelton. I didn't like her very well. She was our math teacher. She was an old maid, and she was cranky. I think she'd been married, but she wasn't married when I had her. And Laura Schlobom was I loved her, and she just died recently, 102.
Oh, wow.
And we've always kept in contact. And I stayed with her mother across the street from College of Emporia for my last year there. Oh. Janie. And, okay, now we're 10th grade. Laura, some of these teachers taught more than 1 year when you got to high school. They do English 1, English 2. And, I had choir, Mr. Huckabee, and Mr. Lofgren was band. What is his name? I just loved that man. Anyway, he taught science. So that's our English. Often we had a teacher for more than 1 year. Wouldn't be the same. But Mr. Newkirk was our freshman. And then Mrs. Slobon. We had a class in art or drama and journalism, and Mary T. taught that.
Oh, from before?
Pardon?
Mary T. Didn't you have her in
Mary T. Williams.
Yeah, you had her before.
In 8th grade.
Okay.
Or 7th grade. She was the music teacher, but then they finally, she was very versatile, so she could move to one thing or another. Mr. Barnes was our principal, but I don't think he ever taught classes. So science and math and English, band, that was about it.
So 11th grade now?
I took geometry and algebra, and that was as far as I got. Oh, I took typing.
Oh,
we had typing class.
Really?
I wasn't the bestest typist.
Oh.
I finally passed the test, I think, on the last day.
I can imagine. I've seen your texts.
Well, I did better than that now, than I do now. But anyway, that's my story, and I'm sticking to. I did pretty well, didn't I?
You did pretty well. You got to 10th grade, and you named first and last names. And multiple teachers per year. That was great.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I'm surprised sometimes you ask people and they say they don't remember any teachers they had.
That's crazy. I remember, I think all of mine, I think I could do that too.
Did you?
Yeah. Should we sing a Christmas carol for the listeners before we go? What do you want to do?
Well, I know it's in Swedish, or in German, I think.
Oh,
Christmas tree.
Oh, Tannenbaum?
We rejoice in thine oblitter, nine off in winter vanish night. Da, 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 da. Oh, Christmas tree, oh, Tannenbaum, how lovely are thy branches.
Okay, say goodbye.
Oh, goodbye.
So, that was our episode on Sweden with Grandma. Thanks so much for coming on, Grandma. It was so much fun. And thanks for singing with me. If you like this podcast, you should make Spritz cookies and look up your ancestry on the internet. Bye.